and good afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Barry Hauser, and I have the honor of serving as the president and director of Smith Walbridge Clinics, the nation's first marching band leadership camp established in 1949. And I also serve as the associate director of bands and director of the Marching Illini at the University of Illinois. Well, as most of you know, due to COVID-19, the pandemic, we unfortunately had to cancel our face-to-face clinics. That being said, we are excited to host and present a number of free clinics throughout the summer. We are so glad that you've joined us for our second virtual clinic of the summer and our first clinic in our Lessons in Leadership series with a focus today on effective communication. I do want to encourage you, if you have any questions or comments throughout this session, please use the chat function of Zoom. We're going to keep those microphones muted, primarily just because of the numbers that we have, and that way we can get through everything that we need to. So again, please feel free to use that chat function, and we'll continue to moderate that and look at those questions as they may come in. Well, I am so honored and just so excited that my great friend and colleague, Dr. Beth Shackelford, is here to share her effective and practical message with you. Beth has served as a clinician and director with the Smith Walbridge Clinic since 1994 in a variety of capacities. She's been a member of our drum major instructional staff. She's served as a director and now as head clinician of our leadership clinic. In her professional career, she has achieved tremendous and great success as a music educator, administrator, and now she serves as the Director of Business and Operations at O'Fallon Township High School. And now everyone, please, out there in Zoom world, help me welcome Dr. Beth Shackelford with Lessons in Leadership and Effective Communication.
Thank you, Barry. Hi, everybody. It is so refreshing to see all of you. I have been in a school building for the past, I don't know, almost 80 days and have not had any of my students around. So I'm so happy to see you, even if virtually, and also want to commend you all to start with just for going above and beyond by taking advantage of this enrichment that Smith Walbridge is so graciously offering. As Barry mentioned, our focus tonight is going to be on effective communication in a more practical sense. So I want to start with an exercise that I've altered a little bit for the Zoom setting. So you will need the chat function for this exercise. So my instructions for this exercise are that I would like you to type the sentence that you hear me say. Do your best, okay? I'll tell you when the sentence begins. We got those chat bars ready. Here's what I'd like you to type in the chat bar. Here we go. Smith Walbridge Clinics helped me become a better leader through the exploration of both myself and others, helping me to develop direction for my band and my own leadership, teaching me how to put my vision into action, and helping me reflect in a meaningful way. Go for it. All right, and Barry, I don't know if you are even able to keep up with all of these chats coming in, where if you wouldn't mind sharing with us just a few of the answers that you saw.
All right, I'm going to go with some of our friends out there who are probably closest as possible to what you just rattled off there. So
okay.
We've got Grace, who says, Smith Walbridge Clinic helped me become a better leader and helping me reflect in a meaningful manner. And then we've got a number of people that talked about Smith Walbridge Clinics helps me become a better leader. And then we stop right there. Let's see. Smith Walbridge Clinics helped me become a better leader for both myself and others. So we've got some good coverage there.
Yeah, that's all the way to the first comma. That's impressive.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one. Smith Walbridge helped me become a better leader through direction of myself and others.
Nice.
Smith Walbridge Clinics helped me become a better leader, helped me become ... and helping me reflect in a meaningful way. Yes.
Wonderful. Hey, guys, nice job. I really probably put your typing skills to the test more than anything. Okay, so did I expect you to get all of that right? Absolutely not. I threw a ton of information at you all at once, said ready, set, go, do it. Do it all at once, okay? Now what I'd like to invite you to do is go to that chat again, and I want you to tell me some of the things that made it challenging for you to effectively dictate and essentially regurgitate that sentence that I said. If you could just have ideas that made it difficult.
One of the comments, only hearing it once.
Mhm. Great.
I didn't know what you were going to talk about, so there was no preface. Too much detail rather than hitting the main points directly.
Yeah, great stuff.
I type slow. Yes. I think this is one that we can all associate with as well. I am a slow listener and I need time to process things.
Yes, wonderful.
Part of
Yeah,
this is
all
a function of, here's one that we experience on Zoom, so we can mark this on our bingo card. Skipping audio and too fast. So internet connection.
yeah. It in this case, yes, I said it all very quickly. I went into a ridiculous amount of detail, and something that actually is applicable probably more so to Zoom than when I do this in a live setting is one person said, or a few of you said, I can't type that fast. And I think that's actually something that can metaphorically relate to the different skill sets. So while some people, if you're great at typing, you may have rattled off a lot of that. Someone got to that very first comma. Now, if you're someone who's a pecker, and I'm kind of a pecker, on the keyboard, you maybe got the first couple words and then you didn't even try because it was so overwhelming that you didn't even want to take on the task. All of these comments are wonderful and makes me think that a lot of you can probably teach this session today. So great job on your responses, and thanks for your responses. I'm going to shift now to the bulk of our presentation. So you're going to stop seeing me and you're going to see my screen for a while, and then we'll see each other again as we near the end of the presentation. So again, today's presentation is about effective communication, and I'm hoping that you can all see my screen right now. If you're unable to see my screen, please let Barry know in the chat. First, I'd like to give an overview of the things we'll be talking about tonight. First is giving directions. As student leaders, so much of what we do is teaching, whether it's leading a sectional, calling commands, communicating what needs to happen next. So we'll talk a little bit about how to give your directions most effectively. Then the effective communication piece has more to do with the humanity of communication, thinking about how people learn and how people process information. Some of you had mentioned in that statement that I read that it was so much to process at once. So we're going to be considering those items. Next, feedback. We're going to talk about judgmental and informational feedback and give some ideas about how we can make our feedback most effective and to help us improve. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll do some leadership in action where we'll discuss some scenarios and also have questions and answers if you have any questions for our Barry and I tonight. So the first thing that I mentioned was giving directions. This is so much of what we're doing in a practical matter, day in and day out. The first thing that we need to do when we consider moving from one thing to another is we have to change state. And what that means is we're going to bring closure to whatever it is we were doing before and get the people ready to focus on what's ahead. We can't jump into a rehearsal or a sectional or a marching practice and go straight from one thing to another. So always remind yourselves, if you're coming out of something, make sure you close that activity and then move on to the next activity. The reason why this is important is because of the way your brain works during the learning experience. So some really cool scientists who are a lot smarter than me put out that there are actually 4 phases to that learning experience. The sound in the background. So my brain is processing, I hear that, brain wakes up and says, oh, it's information that I need to process. The third stage is that processing stage, which a lot of you mentioned in your responses. That's when your brain starts to work. They're saying, okay, I know information is here. Now I need to make sense of that and also see if I can find some meaning in that information. And then the last part focuses on remembering or the retention of that information. Your brain has to connect something familiar with the new information so that it has a connection to store it so we can come back and store it for future retrieval. The next thing that's so important when you're giving directions is the so what factor, the relevance of what you're doing. Again, it goes back to connecting the material, which helps us process and remember it with previous knowledge, but also your membership needs to understand why you are participating in the activity that you're participating in. If it doesn't have any relevance or importance to your goals, to your mission, to your vision, to that foundation of what you want to accomplish, and if they're not aware of what that foundation is, they're going to dismiss this as unimportant information. So it's very important to connect that relevance factor, the so what factor, so that they know that what you're doing means something to them. This is so difficult for young educators such as yourself. Yes, you are educators, and old educators like myself and Barry alike. Use fewer words. Use familiar words. I'm sure that some of you have been in some kind of presentation in the past where the presenter is talking way over the audience's head. You maybe don't understand some of the terms that you're using. Think about those things. If you're presenting somebody some information about marching band that could be brand new to them, are you using the term attention without them understanding what attention means? Are you using the term horns up? We take that for granted, right? We've done this a while. Are you using that term and they don't really know what that is supposed to symbolize or what that looks like? And then the use fewer words part, something I would challenge you to do, which will be more attainable when you are back in your live rehearsal settings, which we all hope will be sooner than later, is to practice modeling behaviors more than explaining behaviors. For many people, if they see it, they will connect, this is what it looks like, and now I'm able to achieve it. Fewer words is so, so difficult and so, so key. Along with that, engage multiple modalities. We all know that we learn differently. Some people learn best by hearing the words of instruction. Others learn best by seeing a model of behavior. I would highly recommend, even on Zoom, even if you're having some sort of virtual rehearsal, that you work to engage at least hearing and sight to your membership. That means that you're stepping away in the Zoom scenario, you're stepping away from the computer and you are taking time to show them, this is what the horn angle is supposed to look like. This is what attention looks like. You could model by playing a passage before you rehearse it as a group if you're doing rehearsals in that setting. So please explain and show. Next is to check for understanding. An important thing to realize is that those that are not achieving, those that are challenged the most, those that are having the most difficult time getting it right, they are not going to ask for clarification. Why? Because they're super scared, guys. I am terrified when I am naturally bad at something, and there are plenty of things I am naturally bad at that I am not gifted at. I would I would say that you have to make them comfortable by creating a culture where it's comfortable for them to ask for that clarification. And a way to do that as you're continuing to build the culture and trust is after you give instructions or the first time they're trying something, if possible, maybe pair them up on a smaller stage. Meaning, if you have a group of, say, 30 members that are supposed to execute parade rest, and you have just taught that, instead of having the whole group perform it all at once, again, this person is scared to ask for clarification because they don't want to be the one who doesn't get it. Pair them up. Say, hey, find a partner. Show each other what parade rest looks like. Give each other some feedback on it. That puts them in a lower risk scenario where they'll be more comfortable if they don't quite get it. Maybe they can ask that partner, I didn't get this part. Can you help me out with this? And it gives them an opportunity to practice and find some success before doing it as a group. In addition, it's building relationships within your ensemble, which is the number one, in my opinion, most important thing that we do as a band is building those relationships. Next is indicate the duration, okay? So if you were a PE teacher or if you had a PE teacher and they just said, start running, okay? I'm telling you, man, I'm someone who has run before, but I have never liked it. I have done it because I know it's good for me. If I had someone tell me or a running coach tell me, hey man, start running. I'm gonna think before I start anything, well, how long am I running? Are you gonna have me run a mile? Are you gonna have me run 5 minutes? Are you gonna have me run a 5K, which is 3.1 miles? Or am I gonna be running 26.2 miles, which is a marathon? Let them have that assurance that they're gonna have the time to complete the task at hand. Indicate how long we're going to spend on this. Again, just like I did at the beginning of this presentation, I said, here are the 4 things we're gonna go over. Make sure you have with clarity communicated to your membership what is to be expected. And the next thing, this is very relevant in band, maybe even more so than some other disciplines, is pair your verbal commands and your explanation with an auditory start and stop. So what I mean by that is you are going to give clear directions of the expectation. Then you need to have some other thing that signals the start. And it could be as simple as, okay, here we go. But make sure you're signaling the start of when they are to begin doing whatever it is you're teaching them to do. The other thing, at the end, you need to have that same behavior. You first need to bring the activity or the task some closure and then speak about it. I firmly believe that there is no band student in America that hasn't had a director or leader at some point in time when we're in the middle of performing. I know I've had it happen a gazillion times that they go, stop, 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 you know, and I don't even know what's going on. And they start telling me how terrible it is before everyone's even stopped playing, okay? If you've seen that before, this is what I'm talking about there. If the activity is coming to an end, allow it to have closure, then speak, providing feedback or clarifying instructions or the directions to go to the next step. And we'll get a little bit more into that on the communication side of it. But it's very, very important. I know I never felt good when my directors would do that. Not only did I feel a little bit demeaned because I was doing my best, but I also was very confused because I'm hearing instruments in the background and people are still doing other things while at the same time I'm trying to listen to my director to make people feel, and so that they can hear the feedback and instructions that we are allowing the backup, okay? I know it's difficult as a student leader. It's also difficult as an adult leader. Sometimes it's hard to use other leaders as resources because we have this burden that we bear, that we give ourselves of, I'm the section leader, I'm the drum major, I should be able to make all of this happen. Well, newsflash, nobody can do these things alone. So as you're building relationships with other leaders in your program, pay attention to their strengths. Give them a little bit of that burden. Not only is it going to help you and help grow your organization, but it's also going to empower your other leadership to move towards your goals together. It's so important that you recognize those other people's strengths and allow them to be a resource. My other note of having a cheat sheet somewhere safe. Do you have something that's written where they could reference it if they forget something that you said? Or in other terms, is there a place that they can go to at all times if they have questions that doesn't necessarily involve asking a question in front of everybody? Okay. And that brings me to 3 messages about asking for clarification, which is so important. When we give instructions, folks, we're never going to do it perfectly. This is something we'll all work on our entire life. Realize this. If you give instructions and you get a million questions of clarification, realize, one, that it's normal to need clarification. It also shows that people are actually listening to you, which is a rock star awesome thing. It's acceptable. It's important. It's something that is going to help you achieve your goals. Now, this last piece is a little bit tricky. It is the learner's responsibility to indicate when that clarification is needed. And if you remember a few slides ago, I mentioned those people that are person that you make with your membership, new and old alike, the more comfortable your membership will be in asking questions of clarification. The way that you respond to questions of clarification will also help your membership feel safe in asking. So if you respond in a helpful way and you are appreciative of those questions, they are more likely to continue asking those questions. If you respond negatively, saying you should have heard this, you should have known this, they're going to be more afraid to ask those questions in the future. And then give fair warning, okay? This goes back to where we talked about at the beginning. Whatever you were doing before needs closure, and you need to prepare them for the end. When you're getting ready to wrap things up, you need to do the same thing, okay? You need to give direction, signal start, signal the end, then speak. All right? Help them prepare for those transitions. And then finally, acknowledge their effort. This can be done as a whole. I don't want you to give empty feedback, but I do want you to provide feedback to them. People don't know if they did something right, wrong, or somewhere in between if you don't provide regular, informative feedback to them. And acknowledge the effort that you see on the field, in the rehearsal, in any scenario when you're working with your membership. Sometimes it's appropriate to do this as a whole. If the whole group is doing a great job at something, man, pump it up, get it out there. Privately is also very effective. What's that going to help you with? Relationship building. If you notice someone doing something spectacular during rehearsal, find the time and make the effort to let them know. Guys, it feels good to feel good. Everyone likes to feel good. Even if people are a little bit uncomfortable receiving praise, as many of us are, it's still nice to have rehearsal at lunch or whenever you're talking to them on Snapchat or whatever you guys are. This has more to do with the people part of it, not so much the nuts and bolts of giving instructions. The first thing is, give me a way out. Give permission for people to make mistakes. It is the only way they are going to get better. Again, if you are like me, it is difficult to make mistakes, especially when you are in a spotlight, like you often are as a leader, like your membership often is when they're the only one that steps off of the whole group. Folks, that makes them uncomfortable. Your membership needs to know that making mistakes is cool with you. Next, help me know my strengths. And this goes back to the praise piece that I mentioned where you're acknowledging effort. Tell people what they're doing right. There is no person in your band, in your membership, who is doing 0 things right. Notice them. It is your job as the leader to let them know, hey, this is going great. Folks, people are motivated when they are told that they are doing some things well. It'll help boost their confidence and, again, help build that trust relationship. Help me relax into learning, especially for people coming into a situation for the very first time. They can be very intimidated by the established relationships, the established practices, the established rituals that you do and that are part of your culture because they feel outside of that. Let them relax into it. Going back to that making mistakes piece, it's okay to laugh and have fun sometimes, even at yourself. Let them know that we make mistakes too. A prime example I have of this that still horrifies me to this day was when I was a sophomore in college at the University of Illinois. I was calling commands on the podium with the group of 350 other musicians, just as part of our drill practice. And I think it was that they were at parade rest. I called them to parade rest. And then after that, I gave a command that wasn't coming back to attention. And we had something in the marching Illini back in the day where if people screwed up, and usually it was a term of endearment, which you learned over time. But again, I was brand new in a leadership position. I was a younger leader. But they had this thing where they'd go to kind of hiss and say, hey, that's no good. It scared the heck out of me. But it was also an opportunity for me as a leader to say, hey, sorry guys, I screw up too. I didn't pretend like it was their problem because it surely wasn't. It showed them I was human. It showed them that I was able to own up to my mistakes. Don't be afraid to do that. Guys, you're gonna screw up. It's totally cool. If you want your members to feel comfortable taking risks and screwing up in order to get better, you need to model that behavior. Help me save face. I do think as a society, we are better at this than we were 25 years ago when I was going through my high school band experience. Make sure we are never humiliating people or making fun of people. Even if that fun that you are poking at people is intended to be a lighthearted joke, you are not in the perspective and the shoes of the person on the receiving end, regardless of your intent. There is a possibility, and I would even say a probability of hurt resulting from making fun or poking what we consider to be harmless jokes at our membership. What that does is it causes distrust. It could also result in a power struggle, which is something I know that we all deal with as well. So if I call out, let's say, another section leader for screwing up, okay, and I think, oh, it's fun, we're friends on the side, that person may still be embarrassed and humiliated by my response, even if they laugh it off in front of me. And what is that going to do? That's going to take my friendship and my trust relationship with that person, and it's going to start to deteriorate that relationship. I'm certain you have also seen other scenarios where you see either members within a section or section leaders in power struggles with one another. Humiliating or poking fun at people will enhance those power struggles and that distrust. Sometimes you feel like, oh, this is just, it's all in good fun, it's fine. I'm here to tell you it is never okay because you aren't inside the other human being who is receiving that feedback.
Hey, Beth.
Yes.
On that note, and I see we're going to get to the inspire me as well. I see that. So maybe you want to cover, yeah. One of the questions that came through, I think, is very pertinent to what you were just talking about. So maybe this gives us an opportunity to talk about this just a little bit. How
Sure.
can we enforce rules and give corrections without coming off as bossy or rude?
Okay, great question. So we are going to talk about feedback in a little bit where I'll get more into this, but if you don't want to come off as bossy or rude, my first thing that you always focus on is talk about the task, okay, rather than the person. Make sure you don't focus the criticism, and sometimes we do have to point out things that aren't going well. Make sure that is focused on the behavior and not the human being. And the other part of that is the more private you can make corrections, the better. That way you aren't making this person a public display of something that is wrong or incorrect or undesirable. Barry, anything to add to that?
No, I agree. And I think, part of that, and this is such a big part of this presentation, and if you've been to any other of Beth's presentations, so much of it is relationships as well. If you've
Yes.
established that relationship with that individual, it's not going to come off as rude or bossy because you've already established a connection and hopefully some things in common. So that's what's so important as a student leader as well, is that when you kick it into gear of being a student leader for your organization, but you're also creating friendships and relationships along the way. So when you do ask them to do something, they're going to be much more prone to doing that.
Because you are here during your own time, during your summer break, that you are enthusiastic about your art as a musician and your art as a student leader. Make sure that every time you show up to rehearsal, you are exuding that in your entire being. Even though you can't see me right now, I am talking with my hands because I am passionate about the message that I am communicating to you. Make sure that your body language, your verbal communication is reflective of that passion and that enthusiasm you have for the art and the community that is marching band. Share it freely. Others need to know how excited you are about it so that they can then want to be a part of that. I mentioned this a little bit before when we talked about humiliation, but the other extent possible, please keep your feedback regarding to explaining this was the desired behavior, this is what I saw or heard, this is how we can correct the behavior, not you did it wrong, you suck. And again, I think that our band culture has come a long way in the past 25 years, but those were messages that I heard back in the mid 90s when Barry and I were in high school together. And again, I felt like it was kind of the leaders kind of trying to show their power, which did not make me want to engage with them further. It made me more scared to try. It made me more scared to be vulnerable. And it made me not want to be a part of those things. And to add to that, student leadership is so difficult because for a lot of us, it's the first time we're in this kind of role where we feel a greater responsibility for the ensemble, and we want to be respected. We want to be followed, right? We're leaders. We want people to follow us. And it's very easy to fall into a trap of, in order to show them that I am a leader, I have to assert or impose my leadership on someone else. I'm in charge because I said so, my way or the highway. I do think with that, building relationships, trust, the more open you are of just being a member of your organization that just happens to have a different role. You're helping to bring the group together, provide direction, but your role is no more important than any of the membership. If you keep that in mind, it is going to help you deliver that feedback to your membership. Again, you're not saying, hey, I'm more important than you, I know right and you don't. Rather, hey, we have this relationship, we're all trying to get better, I make mistakes too, let's see if we can figure this out together, with the key word, of course, being together. The next piece is let me know I matter. All right, folks, if you see someone alone, I know It is so much easier to allow them to be alone because you want to spend time with your friends. You want to be around your people. That fills your cup. But guess what? You have a burden as a leader, a wonderful burden to make, and an opportunity to make additional connections, to make those people who have an empty cup socially, an empty cup personally, an empty cup in terms of their understanding of your culture. And it is your burden and your responsibility to help to fill that. An easy way to do that is just to say hi before rehearsal starts. Get to know them. While we're in a virtual learning environment, a lot of you may be bringing rising freshmen from 8th grade into your group. Reach out to them individually. Get to know them, whether it's through FaceTime, Snapchat, Zoom, whatever, to in those chats, so that they don't hear about these side conversations going on that they weren't a part of. Start right from the beginning of making them a part of the conversation whenever it's something that would be applicable to them. Make it real. Go back. People have to understand why what you're doing matters. Okay. Again, that goes back to you communicating your enthusiasm and your passion, and then going back to the directions piece of letting them know what we're trying to accomplish and what the purpose is of what we're trying to accomplish. Notice when I try. Tell people when they do something well. One of my greatest weaknesses as an educator, when I was teaching choir with my top ensemble, I'm talking elite musicians, was I knew they were driven. And so I allowed them to operate as if everything was going well unless they heard something differently from me. And that was so unfair of me. Luckily, because I had good relationships with my students, some of my student leaders came up and said, "Hey, Shaq, like, dude, I mean, you're helping us get better, and we're working hard, but you're telling us how to fix stuff. But can you start to kind of tell us things that are going well too?" And I really had to be able to take that feedback from them and make myself aware that they needed that reinforcement from me. Again, I said, "Oh, these are my top musicians. They know how great they are. I know they're driven. I just know they want to get better. So I'm going to tell them, hey, stop. We need to fix this. This is how we're going to fix it. Go." And I would almost be like a train and kept going and going and going. And so I had to teach myself, because it's not inherent in me when I'm trying to create excellence, to relax enough and reflect enough within a rehearsal setting to give that positive feedback of things that are going so much better. So please make a conscious effort to do those things. And then the last thing here, speak to me with respect, okay? I'm sure that seems like, well, duh, Beth, of course we're supposed to speak to others with respect, to most. But for some, they may not, based on their life experience, understand what respect looks like. And I know that's a really heavy process. But it's you may be the only model that some of your membership has of what respect is. It is your duty and your responsibility to always treat membership and yourself and your director and your color guard director and all of those involved in your organization with respect, because people are always watching you. We think of parades. Folks, you are a leader. You are in a parade all day long. They are watching you in person. They are watching you on social media. They are watching you at all times, and now more than ever with how connected we all are through the internet. Make sure that everything that you are putting out there, when people are learning about you and the information they're receiving about you, models respect. The more they see what respect looks like from you, the more they receive respect from you, the more likely they are to, one, in some cases, learn what respect looks like, and two, be able to model that behavior themselves. Such an important piece, really, truly, it's its own session of understanding other people's perspective. But please, especially before you type, before you share, I want you to act as if whatever it is you are sharing, especially on social media, is going to be on the marquee in front of your school for all people to see. Please take pause and consider those things as you are modeling what respect looks like to your membership. Two types of feedback we'll be talking about is judgmental feedback. Focuses on just that. It focuses on A, B, C, D, E, or F. You've been judged on your performance, okay? When you get that final graded essay, it is final. It's not really focused on the learning like your first or second or third draft was. Rather, we're saying, okay, you did as much as you can do. We're at the end. Judgmental feedback tends to be non-specific. Things like, that was bad, that was terrible, no, that wasn't what I wanted. Well, what the heck? What is it that you did want, okay? Tends to be summative, going back to, this is the end. It's levied against the person a lot of times. Again, saying, okay, my feedback is, you messed this up. You caused this problem. So you're assigning that feedback to the human being and not to the behavior or the performance of the task. It also characterizes success as winning over others. It's like it's a contest. And folks, we never want I know we're going to go to band contests. We sure hope at some time in the future. That's what those contests are for. We're never going to get to where we're going to want to be in those contests if we treat our rehearsals as a contest. Our rehearsals are about unity and having everyone working towards that goal together. There should be no winners and losers within our ensemble. Informational feedback, on the other hand, is more focused on learning. It's constructive. Not only are we pointing out some things that we can do better, we're explaining and showing how to make them better. It's promoting understanding of what our goals are and what the achievement of those goals look like. It's helping that other person know how they can improve the items that they're working on in rehearsal. It also allows them an opportunity to reflect and self-assess. And the achievement here is not measured in a winning or losing. Against a performance better than last year, things like that. So again, you're always going toward that standard, and informational feedback allows you to move toward that standard. And then finally, I just wanted to share with you a chart about judgmental and informational feedback side by side, so you can kind of see those differences together. So it's judgmental versus descriptive, talking about, again, what specifically happened when we tried this task. It's generalized versus specific. The more specific we can be in our feedback, the more opportunities we have for a better outcome the next time we try it. Judgmental tends to be about a person or their ability. Again, none of us are perfect. Make it about the task or the desired behavior. Judgmental feedback says, hey, we can't change, man. This is just where we're at. This is just a bum deal. We're never going to get this. Where informational is always, again, leading toward that goal, letting us know that change is possible. Judgmental feedback tends to be managerial in nature. So we're just kind of going through the motions, good, bad, indifferent. Where informational feedback focused on our growth. And then we're going to apply a judgment to this, while informational would be guiding. Again, informational provides much more movement and the possibility for movement to continue rather than a stagnant state of this is where we have arrived. As a very, very oversimplified example here, something that I've heard leaders say before, man, you think you get this by now. We've been over this all season. We've been over this a million times. Okay, folks, anyone you say that to, let me tell you something. They're not going to want to work harder for you if they hear that from you, okay? Rather, try to describe something that they're doing right. Again, knowing that no matter how big a mistake is, there is something that this person who made this glaring mistake in your eyes did right. Give them credit for that. I see you're getting this. It looks like these first two steps are completely right. And of course, talk the way that you talk, not necessarily the way I wrote it. If I said that to one of my students or someone I was leading, I'd say, hey man, you got this part. That is looking awesome. I see you're doing this part. Great. Rock on, man. Because I say rock on like a big nerd. Okay. So be yourself when you're doing it, be authentic. Then after you recognize something that's going well, describe what needs to be done by saying, hey, why don't we take a look at this next step or this other item that has to do with the task? And let's see if we can find a way to remember that as well. And I'd love it. Actually, I wish I would have written this differently, because as I said it different than I wrote it. If you see on the bottom, the last sentence, it says, and see if you can find a way to remember it as well. I would like it if we'd say, and let's see if we can find a way to remember it as well. Again, just letting people know that we're all in this together, okay? Remember, other people's performance is a reflection of your leadership. So if someone's messing up in your ensemble, if someone's not doing the right thing, that is a reflection on us. So we really, truly are in this together. We're trying to become better leaders and better teachers, just as the membership is trying to master a skill or objective that we're sharing. I have, now what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see that I'm still a human being. And hopefully you are able to see me now in my office. Hello. What I'd like to have an opportunity to do is I'd like for you to think of a scenario that you have personally experienced where you see people struggling in a band environment. And guys, for the sake of Zoom, if you could just think of a scenario where just someone's having a hard time with something, and try to make it one sentence, okay? So if you would start in the chat to write down a scenario there, and then I'm gonna ask Barry to maybe pick one of those that we see come in that we could share with the group and maybe address together.
Yeah, and lots of great items, as you can imagine. So thank you, everyone. I think one that, again, continues to come through here pretty repetitively is people missing their dot or people missing their step off. Okay,
very good. So let's say that they are missing their dot. Okay, so they're missing their position. What I'd like you guys to do now, this is I'm going to make you a part of this. Okay, you're the leaders. I'm just talking a lot. Okay. What I'd like you to do is think of a way, if you had that person who's always missing their dot. I want you to think of an ineffective way to provide feedback for that, but make it realistic. Don't write the words "you suck." Okay, I don't want something that blatant, but think of something that maybe has happened where you have witnessed ineffective feedback for the person who is always missing their dot. Yeah,
like we've done this before, right?
Right. I think we may have seen things like this before. What are a few that you're seeing there, Barry? Some ineffective responses.
Dude, it's not that difficult.
Right.
You need to work on this.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
You silly goose.
Yeah, I saw the "you silly goose" one. That made me giggle.
Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, great. The last thing that we want to do is say something, and guys, you know this, but also sometimes when we're frustrated as leaders, we're frustrated ourselves, and sometimes it's tempting to say something like that, like, man, it's not that hard. And you know why it's frustrating for us? Because for us, it's not that hard, okay? For example, for me, marching band was pretty easy. That may have something to do with the fact that I became a music educator as my chosen profession, right? However, if you would put me in front of a pitcher, even if I had one of those little kid, big, fat, red bats, I can almost guarantee you I will miss the ball every single time. I have terrible hand-eye coordination. So to that pitching coach or to that PE teacher or whatever, I'm sure they're thinking like, hey man, dude, this isn't that hard. Beth, get it together. You know what, man, you're really messing up on this. And even if they're trying to be nice about it, what is it going to do? Is it going to motivate me to want to swing that bat more? Nope, I want it to be over as soon as possible. I'm going to try not to be noticed. I certainly am not going to ask questions and point out my weaknesses even more. So let's shift now, because I do think that people have said things like, guys, it's not that hard, just do it. Right? I mean, it almost rolls off the tongue. We've heard it so many times. What would be a different way to respond to that, to say, instead of, it's not that hard, man, just do it? What's a different way we could respond if you could start sharing those things?
Really like this one, Matthew, not to call you out, but this is a good one. You're really nailing the technique going to your dot. What are some ways that we could figure out how to get closer to our dot together? But your marching is looking really good right now.
Love it. Yeah, that's that classic, if you've heard before the term compliment sandwich, right? Where you say something positive that you're seeing, then you mention the behavior that we're going to continue to work toward, and then close it again with something positive. Anything else there, Barry, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, these kind of 2 or 3 in a row from Robert and Jamie are very similar too. Let's work on it after rehearsal, or do you want to meet up after practice and go over it?
Yeah, great. I mean, because if you do something like that, one, it shows your commitment to your band, right? Like, you're going to stay after rehearsal. You're not going to, I don't know where you cool kids go right now, but wherever everyone's going after rehearsal, you're going to stay back to help somebody in a lower risk environment where they may be more comfortable being vulnerable and trying it multiple times because all of the membership isn't there. And then I know we keep circling back to it, but that foundation of everything, which is building those relationships and that trust culture. Okay, folks, if you have ever been a leader who created, what a powerful, wonderful thing for us as leaders should always be our goal. So that after rehearsal or one-on-one opportunity away from the group is such a great opportunity for us as leaders. Guys, great feedback, great feedback. You guys have totally got this. Like I said, you didn't need this hour. You're experts already. And Barry, I'm looking at the clock, so I'm sorry, we are at 7 o'clock. So I guess I would hand it over to you to conclude, as I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, and Barry, of your time.
Yeah, hey, let's give it up for Beth once again for all of her wonderful, wonderful work. Thank you so much, Beth. Awesome information. All right, everybody, just a couple things. And I know you had some really great questions out there. What I've done, I've taken majority of those questions. I think I got most of them, and I'll save the chat here as well. And we'll try and provide a little bit of time following this session to answer some of those things. I'll share them with Beth as well, and collaboratively we can work maybe on some of these things and then provide possibly a PDF for you to answer some of these things, because there's some really, really important questions here. So there will be a video of this that will be posted on our website at swclinics.com, so you can watch this once again. So be sure to look out for that. We'll have an announcement that goes out when those videos are up there, similar to our drum major video from Monday that will be posted. Free educational resources for you to take a look at. So swclinics.com, that is all there. Thank you once again, everyone. A big thank you to Beth Shackelford once again, our head clinician for our leadership clinic, and just an overall awesome person and amazing leader in her profession, and certainly an outstanding leader in our marching arts as well. So thank you once again, Beth. Always a pleasure. And everyone else, hope you have a fantastic evening. If there's anything else we can do for you, please let us know. And until the next time, we look forward to seeing you once again. All right, band dismissed. Thank you all.